wouldn't let me, and he.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Stuff Podcast, where we talk all things Star Wars. I'm here, back finally with working internet. My name is Mason.
I'm Matt.
No. You actually have to apologize to our listeners.
I haven't even heard the. All right,
I'm
fine.
still Matt.
I
am Josh.
Friends,
I'm Colin.
And I am deeply, deeply sorry
There you
about
Your name was Mason.
pain and strife that I have caused you, my friends. I am so terribly, tragically sorry.
Mason, not Hondo Onaka. What the heck is
Good.
happening
Okay.
right now?
Well, all right. Well, thank you for listening to the Star Stuff. Next, no, just kidding. All right. We have a lot of news to break down. Actually, a couple of days ago, we had the article about all the new Star Wars projects coming out. Very, very exciting stuff. We actually got to see characters stand next to each other that we never thought we would, especially live action. Seeing Obi-Wan and Ahsoka stand next to each other, that was really, really cool. We also saw Vader as well as the new Inquisitor. And we saw Andor and Mandalorian standing right next to each other as well. It's a very exciting time for Star Wars fans. It's a very exciting time for Star Wars. And then there's also the statement that Kathleen Kennedy made about the Rian Johnson trilogy, and then also why Solo made a bad impression for them for casting new actors to play main character roles that are
It's
well
a
known.
spicy episode. Everyone buckle up.
So
we got a lot to talk
there
about.
is excitement, and it looks like there's some controversy. So let's get into the news. On Monday, we got. Wait, was it Monday or yesterday, or the day before? I forget.
Well, I mean, this past week.
There we
cover all
go.
your bases. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cover them all. Yeah.
I yesterday. All right. So Tuesday. On Tuesday, we got the new article for Vanity Fair that broke down some of how the actors were feeling and their excitement for all the new upcoming shows and the new episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi out, which is coming out next week. Obi-Wan Kenobi is finally coming out next week.
Can you believe it?
Next
It's
time.
been the number
am-
one
next
show
Thursday.
for
You
all
believe
Star
it's
Wars
already here.
fans since it
Oh
was
my
even,
gosh,
like,
bro.
that was like I remember that being hinted and people were just going nuts about that. So it's finally because we thought it was going to be a movie originally, and now it's great that we're actually finally getting this series.
Well, it was supposed to be a movie, but then it got it's all switched around because of Solo. So it looks like Solo
Don't you
It
go
sounds
blaming Solo for everything. What, they're
I'm-
just
I'm-
a scapegoat now? Is that what's
Well,
happening?
I feel like it's definitely the biggest learning lesson that the company has ever had.
yeah.
Well,
I don't know,
what
the-
they think is the biggest learning lesson.
I was
that
like,
they've
hold on
ever
a second,
had.
Josh.
I was gonna say that the sequel
Are you-
trilogy exists.
Right.
He's like,
Towards
"Do
the
you
future
remember-"
of where they're going with Star Wars, because I
Okay.
don't think they would have
Makes
just
sense.
continued the same way they would have. Like,
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Because of we are getting Kenobi, and then shortly after, by the end of the year, we are getting the Cassian Andor series, which they kind of
This
talked about it,
summer?
but not in a big way.
I
Most
want to
likely
know more about that series. A
Well,
lot more about that.
next
series,
week
'cause-
is Star Wars Celebration.
Cassian
and-
Andor is in it.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's
it
basically
takes
all we know.
It takes place in or around the same time as the Empire.
Just want to see those
Forrest
Bothan
Whitaker
spies.
cameo.
All those Bothan spies that died.
I
get those
swear to
plans.
God,
The
if
Death
Max
Star
Rebo
too.
shows up, I'm off. I'm out. I'm not doing it.
Listen,
I'm out.
I will be so pumped if he
I'm
shows
out.
up and in Obi-Wan Kenobi. I will lose it. I will be
No way,
like,
no how.
because of it made sense for him to be in the Book of Boba Fett. That made sense. But for him to be in Kenobi just because he's in Tatooine, I'm like, all right, that's kind of a stretch. But
Merchandising. They just wanna
that's
sell
also
it.
the same thing that they've been saying too, about because they're in Tatooine. It's like, you know what? Anyone can show up. So could you imagine if like somehow since the Mandalorian has ties to Tusken Raiders or something that young Mando shows up in Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think that would be all right. Listen, there is
Colin,
a fine line of
Okay.
yeah.
Cover your ears really quick, Colin.
Okay,
Come
go
on,
ahead.
Matt. Who buys Max Repo merchandise?
Well, actually,
Let's be
You
honest.
tell there's the amount of people that have sent Colin links to that T-shirt at Star Wars Celebration.
all that Star Wars Celebration stuff has a lot of Max Rebo this year. It's crazy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I know for a fact that Max Rebo Band does tour, and they've been on more than just Tatooine. I don't know what Disney and why Disney's like, let's just stay on Tatooine for all of our series, future projects.
You
and past.
are preaching to the choir, like
Leading into my
for Brooke.
segue,
Where's Brooke?
our
Where's Brooke?
Star
Brooke has
Wars
a lot to say about
merchandise coming up from
Uh,
me.
They are
Star
talking about
Celebration.
Tatooine.
They're talking
And-
about how much they overuse Tatooine, and do you think that they are going to continue on this path with Kenobi? Because obviously they already filmed it, and when
I think
this was all
Obi-Wan
happening.
Kenobi. Okay, so I don't think like it's the last time we'll see Tatooine. I think Tatooine, because of that, is where the actual Star Wars journey began. I think that's where it will keep going. I think it will keep popping up. I think it will.
begins and ends again. It's like
Yeah.
a cycle,
Yeah.
and it all starts and begins in Tatooine.
Yeah.
But there's literally a whole galaxy out there. Like what? Mid-rim,
I don't know,
outer
like
rim,
we have seen a lot of the galaxy though through like
the
other Star
uncharted
Wars content,
sections
right?
of Star Wars that still haven't even been explored.
I
Like,
definitely
there's
would like
so
to see
much.
more planets in live action. Like I would love to see something like Felucia done in live action. And we know
I
that
just
they
wanna
can
see
do
something
that.
Something
You
even
mean
new.
you don't remember when they did all
I guess
Order 66
more
on
of-
Felucia?
I want to do more of Felucia on live action. I'd like to see
I
like
see.
more of these planets that we got like just brief segments of in
So you want to
Uh,
see other
in, like,
than
Order
Commander
66.
Greed just lighten up?
yeah, gunning down Ayla Sakura on screen
Mhm.
for 5 seconds.
How much
I'd
for you
also like to see
guys?
Renvar. I want Renvar very bad.
How much for you guys to know what is so different of a Star Wars story that you would still say is still Star Wars? Like how much can they divert? How much can these Star Wars movies diverge from being? Because I feel like we go back to Tatooine, but we can have a completely different story as long as it's on Tatooine. So yeah,
Okay,
it's fine.
let's use
I have
let's
an
use
interesting
the
take on
the
this.
solo film
Go ahead.
as an example though, because since they want to
Okay.
use it for an example of how they shouldn't use actors and to portray original characters.
Let's
How
actually
much of
read
the
that
Star
statement
Wars
first.
film- Yeah, we can
'Cause,
do that, and then
Yeah,
we'll
so-
come back to you, Josh.
Right. So it says when discussing Solo's box office disappointment on how Alden took on the role of a younger version of Harrison Ford's classic character, Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy said, "Now it does seem so abundantly clear that we can't do that anymore." And then that's the statement, and then she trying to change the subject. So that's-
Abundantly clear.
Yeah. So it's very interesting that that Solo convinced Lucasfilm to no longer cast new actors as those classic Star Wars characters. And it sounds like Solo left a bad impression and a bad taste in their mouth, but I don't think they're looking at it in the right way, because the main reason why Solo didn't do well was because a lot of people were trying to make a statement and boycott the next Star Wars movie because of The Last Jedi. I remember when that happened, and that was the main thing. People were
I
like, I'm
don't
not
know.
seeing it.
Solo was very I feel like a very decisive movie when it came out. Almost like everyone that I talked to about it, and I talked to a lot of people about it because I love Star Wars and I won't stop talking about it. It was very much like a 50-50 people who either loved the movie and really liked that, felt like Star Wars, or they hated it. And biggest reason was because they did not like the actors. Those were the two things that I heard the most about.
Do you also recall the lack of marketing that they did on the film?
I got the Super Bowl
Yeah.
trailer, and I remember that. That was the biggest of any of the trailers that I remember. It was just
We
that
actually
was the
didn't get
marketing that I
the-
could remember.
Because
don't
for
think
every
we
Star
actually-
Wars film, they have a marketing campaign, but then when it came to Solo, they released the one trailer,
No,
and
it
then
was
their
really bad.
merchandising was
They
10
actually had the full trailer, the official trailer, actually come out on May 4th. And they also dropped that clip as well. On May 4th, because on that day they were like, tickets are now on sale, and it was and no joke, it was weird because like I saw it at a private screening, so like I didn't have to worry about it. But then I remember going on the Thursday, on opening night, and I remember being like, okay, why is there only like 10 people in this theater? I was so confused because I was so used to the past 3 years, like just being packed, and then you walk in and there's only 10 people on opening
Well,
night.
you gotta think about like the fact that like when that trailer came out on May 4th, then they instant release ticket sales. Like whereas like for like a film like I don't know, like the new Avatar movie that's coming out in December, and you got a trailer like last week, like that's 9 months of preparation and build up for a release of a film. Whereas this one like it's out. Like you didn't even tell us about it.
It's definitely one of those ones that I don't think they knew what they were going to do with it, because they're just kind of like, well, we're continuing the trilogy, and then it was just like, all right, and we have this little thing here, by the way. Like
now
we already had Rogue One,
right? But that movie did like it was phenomenal. That movie was phenomenal. I really wouldn't have changed anything with that movie.
But here's the thing: is that there's so many like familiar elements or familiar like eye candy that like anyone can make a trailer from what Rogue One has in it and go, wow, that's cool. Like, oh, we got these stormtroopers. Wow, that's cool. Oh, wow, they're black. Whoa, that's really cool. Like, I want to know about that. Rebel symbols, all this kind of like, and that some of those trailers were awful. However, there's much more eye candy for that than there is for trying to push Solo.
Yeah.
All you really have is Chewbacca and the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
People can see those two and be like, oh, I already know. Because I mean, we would know it's like, hey, that's Solo. But like, if you look from an outsider's perspective and you just don't even know what you're looking at, and you just go right past that, and you don't go, wow, that's Star Wars. You go, oh, that's some random actor. I don't know who that is. I'll keep on going. Doesn't catch me.
I agree with that because of that's also something that happened with the prequels, but with Solo, because it was one movie, it was like, okay, well, we know nothing is going to happen to Solo because
but like
character.
If you talked about the prequels, I could see a lightsaber and be like, boom. There's nothing for that in
no.
Yeah.
Now I will say that Darth Maul reveal was very, very cool. That was very unexpected. We like didn't know anything about Crimson Dawn or like anything with his criminal like underworld stuff besides the comic books at the time, which that was called Son of Dathomir, and that was really
still
cool.
Really
him
don't
igniting
know
his
much
lightsaber
about
at the end
that.
is so funny. It's so
we don't
funny.
really know what his connection to all of that is still yet. Like,
well, that was because
right?
they did like a whole like they set themselves up for another Solo film by like with the crime syndicate, and then they're like, yeah, that was a bad idea. Let's not do that. And
right.
Like, but I don't know about all y'all, but like I would love a sequel to the Solo that explains the crime syndicate.
But then what happened was I
do want to know more about Crimson Dawn. I'm very curious how they fit in with so many large crime syndicates already.
I feel like they only just listen to like the Star Wars fans that are like original trilogy fans only. Like they don't like the prequels that much, and they definitely don't like the sequels. And they're like, "Oh my God, you replaced Harrison Ford?" I was like, "No, we didn't replace him. This is just a younger version of him." And
I just didn't think so. So here's my thing about Solo. I like the movie. I like the movie a lot, but I didn't think it was necessary. I don't think we needed it. I think the elements in the movie are great. I think the whole thing of Sabak and Lando and Han and their chemistry,
the dice,
but and seeing the Kessel run and everything, that was really cool. But I don't think it was necessary.
To kick off. This was meant to kick off like all of the other kind of like
independent Star Wars projects.
Independent Star Wars projects that were focused on a person. The most marketable one you could have done would be Han Solo and Chewbacca. Second, I would have said Kenobi, and both of those were on this like the board for being those ones, as well as Boba Fett.
Yes,
we knew
Boba
that,
Fett.
And it's like
Boba Fett.
Where? And then actually, so after the new Fantastic Four movie came out, that person that was making that movie, after the movie flopped, they were like, okay, you're not doing you are not making the new Boba Fett movie. And they scrapped that. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi was supposed to be the next film. It was supposed to be. But then after they saw Solo flopped, in their mind, they're like, oh, okay, well, Solo didn't do good. Obi-Wan Kenobi, like, we we need to give this character justice, and we want to make a lot of money out of it. We
Okay.
can probably make more by doing something else. And they were like, well, Disney Plus is gonna be made, and they're like, okay, well, there's that.
Well, your logic, like the logic that you're comparing that to Disney and that of the article that they don't track, because like in the article they're like, we're not going to cast original characters with new actors, whereas with the new Kenobi series coming out, Ewan McGregor, like, who is Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was an actor who was portraying a younger version of an already existing original character. So, like, Disney's already done it successfully. And now, all of a sudden, with Solo, they're like, oh, it doesn't work. But I was like, it does work. It literally did work.
So, I think what we need to take from this is, because if you think about it, when they were doing stuff with, sorry if you hear stuff in the background, they were doing the deepfake stuff with, like, Luke and everything. I think maybe that's what they're referring to.
Comparatively to what?
As opposed to casting
didn't really
like
exist when
younger
to like casting like new actors, because it's like cheaper? Oh hey, there's Donald.
Is that better?
It saves millions of dollars. You're right.
But I feel like it doesn't, because you still got to pay a lot for that kind of CGI. You got to pay a lot of people to do that. I feel like it's going to cost either the same.
No, I was saying like hiring an actor and that resembles the face more, other than.
But if you think about it like this, what they're saying is that it is not worth us to make like a full character focused movie with someone we just like we hire and they're like, this is now this character, as opposed to making an entire movie with a character that is CGI'd in.
I don't know. I feel like for this debate, like at this point, we would have to sort of see like a statistical graph of the cost of deepfaking someone.
Deepfaking someone is going to be more. I can guarantee it's going to be more expensive for an entire movie than hiring just an actor.
You have to hire a whole team to be a character.
I don't know.
Just hire one actor to do it.
You know, as opposed to hiring a young actor who may not have that much popularity, like maybe they would accept a lower rate because Star Wars.
Again, that's what we're saying. Is like, there's no way that a CGI is going to be cheaper than just hiring one person to. Like,
oh well, yeah. I guess I just put into that argument, huh? But I don't know. Jesus, like I like to see some statistical information about it. I think here's my take on it. What about like the actors? Like, you know, what about young people who are getting into acting who want to get into Star Wars?
Like Mason.
They can, like myself. Like, I would love to go and play Han Solo at some point. Like, I would love the opportunity to go and be part of this world.
That was a very tall Han Solo.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Those long fingers.
No, okay. So
like, you get what I'm saying? Like if you are just relying on putting in all these deepfakes as well, like think about the actors that are having jobs and stuff cut for them. You know? Like they rely on that work to live and survive.
Especially, well, I mean, you can't use job security as an argument here.
No,
think about the amount of people that it takes to deepfake someone's face, where compared to like that of a
and that's true, but. Like less among like the job security and more in the lines of like,
not to mention the level of
get
quality,
an opportunity.
It's kind of like a gamble, because like what you remember, like when they did the deep fake with Luke's face, and they're like, that looks pretty bad, and then some random fan was like, I can do that better, and they're like, great, come on in. But like, so that like there is a lot of ways to thank you, Roll From Boy, he knows what he's talking about. There's a lot of ways that they could do deepfakes, but there's the cost effectiveness, there's like job security, I guess, if Mason wants to bring that as an argument, and then there is the attention to detail with the character and how it affects the overall plot of the story. So the way that Alden in Solo portrayed that of Han Solo, I thought he did significantly amazing. Yeah, and I don't think that even if you had Harrison Ford come back, he probably wouldn't be able to do just as good of a job. But not saying he's a terrible actor. He's just a little past his prime, if that's the right way to put it. Just because obviously the movements would be different. The plots, the setup, the action sequences. It'd all be different if it was.
Does Harrison Ford even want to come back as Han Solo at this point?
No, that made us so over it. He's like, this is my last Indiana Jones. I'm done.
Yeah, I
after
was gonna
this.
say,
So I imagine he would never want to.
He is coming back for Indiana Jones.
And that's one of the things that I meant, like with bringing in young actors, is like bringing people who want to do it, who want to come in and add to this world, you know. If not for job security or whatever, then like let people who are young and passionate take the torch. I mean, that's what Star Wars lives and breathes on, is the younger generations coming in and like taking it and like, okay, what can we do with this now?
Then I will 100% agree with you, as long as we can get something new.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Here's the thing is, I don't want more movies. Like, I will give them the whole, like, we're not going to recast. We're not going to have like new people come in to play these characters, as long as you bring in new characters or like new actors to play new characters in this.
Recycled.
This is what I want to segue into what you were talking about earlier, Josh. You asked how far can we get from what the original idea of Star Wars is and have it still be Star Wars. I think that was a great question that Star Wars Visions explored. I think that was a really, really, really good question, especially whenever we had episodes like Tatooine Rhapsody that like featured, you know, like the entire musical side, or we had Ronin that was about like the Sith going around hunting other Sith, and then we had like there was a lot of unique concepts that were
there were a lot of unique concepts. Do I agree with maybe one or two?
I have something to say to that.
What's up?
The original Clone Wars. The original Clone Wars by the Samurai Jack creator is the exact kind of thing I'm talking about.
That was good.
There is
considered vintage. What the heck is that about?
It means that it's no longer canon. That's all. Yeah. It was canon originally.
Yeah.
That's the kind of short, small stories that I like, but they can be very weird. Like you could have like a whole episode of like, as you were saying, like Mason, like let's say like Felucia, and then it's just like people hunting like like one of the aliens that we know.
Like an acolyte.
Like hunting that. I was like, that sounds like a fun little thing I would love to see on screen. I would love to see that kind of stuff. And it works really well when they did that in that kind of Clone Wars. And that won like so many awards for that animation. And I was like, it's barely any dialogue. I would love to see that kind of stuff from Star Wars, and like another anthology series. Let's make it some fun. Like, hey, let's have some canon stuff. It doesn't have to be like Japanese related. I'd love to see that kind of stuff in Star Wars.
Right.
Movie-wise,
Tartakovsky Star Wars for sure.
Yeah,
I would love Tartakovsky.
I love to move away from so much of like we have this set timeline, and I'm like, go way back, go way in the future. We have the old canon. And that's great that you want to pick apart on and just add to, but can we get away from this, like just this period of like a few hundred years, please?
There was also something that we were talking about in the break room today, which was they have the Old Republic, they have the High Republic, they have all of this stuff that where most of all the High Republic stuff is canon. But most of the stuff from the Old Republic is not. Not all of it is. And I think that if we get a show out of it, not a movie, a show, because of that's something also Kathleen said, which was that the future of Star Wars is not in trilogies. It's in storytelling through different characters and shows. And that was a very interesting comment, because yes, the Clone Wars did pave that road for the future of Star Wars. I think for storytelling. If we didn't get Clone Wars, we would have never gotten Mandalorian, because we would not have Dave Filoni. And I think that it's very interesting to see how great the movies were, but then after they had the sequel trilogy come out, and it did not get the respect, some respect, and some of the aspects of the movies were great, but not all of it. I think that when you compared Mandalorian season 1 to episode 9, and when those both came out at the same time, now guys, be honest, were you more excited to see the season finale of Mandalorian, or were you more excited to see episode
Mandalorian
9?
Easily?
Yeah,
Mandalorian.
Right.
I mean, but to be fair, I don't know if that's just because we had the build up. See, because like if no one told me for episode 9, I still really want to see it. And I would think that would be equally done. Like, let's say I had never seen Mandalorian, because that's not fair to say, like, would you say like the last 2 episodes, till episode 9 are the build up to it? And you're like, here's the conclusion.
Right.
You were probably just turned off a little bit by Last Jedi too. You're like, oh.
You're like, yeah. I'm like, but I wanted to see. I feel like it's closer than being super far away. But after you'd seen it, then I would definitely say like, hey, Mandalorian is 100% like so much of a better finale. But like, yeah, I mean, I was really hyped to see it because I was so curious on how this was going to end and how they're going to explain all this stuff. But then as soon as people are like, this is not it, I'm like,
right.
Then I
will say you are comparing a show to a movie.
I am doing that because of so they were both Star Wars things happening at the same time. And then also on top of that, you also had the hype of Jedi Fallen Order going on as well. So you had all of these Star Wars things happening at the same time, but they both were coming out like around
relatively the same time period.
Yeah. So it was just like, okay, were you more excited to see episode 9 or were you excited to see the season finale of The Mandalorian? And for me, it was as great as those movies are and everything. The Last Jedi just ruined it for me because of the storytelling in it wasn't the way that I personally think it should have went. Now, what it did, and again, I know I talk about this all the time because it's
if you bring up Max Rebo, I swear to God.
No. The Rise of Skywalker had to make up for a lot of the mistakes that The Last Jedi made. And one big jab is where Rey throws her lightsaber into the fire and Luke catches it. And then he's like, that's not how you treat a Jedi's weapon. You must treat it with more respect. And that was a clear jab at Rian Johnson telling Luke to throw his lightsaber over his shoulder in The Last Jedi. And it was like, that was so unnecessary.
Yep.
And like, why did J.J. Abrams do it?
Makes sense.
Because he wanted to make the fans happy. And I just think it just had to kind of clean up of what The Last Jedi was. And you could tell that was their mission for it when it should have been focusing on its own story. And they also threw in the Emperor randomly. Didn't even explain how the Emperor came back in the movie. They explain it in a comic book.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Right. That is how they
hate,
explain it in the movie. And
the thing I hate the most is like,
and they also explained Snoke as well. Like they did not explain Snoke. It was just like, oh,
even the Mandalorian had to fucking take care of that. Like he was like just
language.
Sweet. I said frickin', sorry.
Oh, sorry. I think I said the other
that
way.
way.
But yeah, no.
Okay.
No, but yeah.
I think for me, like Rise of Skywalker, the thing that ruined it for me was like the flash cut cameos. Oh my God, that was the worst. Like trying to keep track of everything that was going on, like bit by bit by bit. And for that to be the first part of the movie, your first impression of the movie, to come in and just be like, and now we're on this planet doing this thing. 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 And like every time,
and the Mandalorian or the Rise of Skywalker?
Rise of Skywalker,
of course.
Okay.
Yeah,
The
like
Rush project.
you could tell that it was almost that's exactly what it was trying to do. Was it was trying to clean up, and I'm using air quotations, Rian Johnson's mess, right? Like it was J.J. Abrams coming in and be like, okay, so all of this is and was a mistake, and this is not part of the trilogy, so I'm just going to rewrite it and make it not the way it is.
I don't like projects that like compete with each other because like directors, the way that they were working with, I'm like, you guys are supposed to be working together.
Exactly.
And you're literally making the plot suffer, and you're making the storyline and the whole series suffer just because of your differences of.
I think I would have respected the movie more if they had just continued it and not devoted so much time to trying their hardest to fix something. I would have respected more if they would just continued it. I felt like the whole I swear they were trying to push some like gray Jedi kind of thing, like Jedi and Sith. We're gonna figure out that like having any of those, there can never be like a proper balance, like that kind of thing. And I was like, that was really cool, and I want to see that. And then I'm like, all right, you guys want to change it and go back? It's fine. And these next steps, I'm kind of like, all right, I feel like the expectation was already ripped away from us in The Last Jedi, and I think that's the main thing that throughout the entire trilogy, I was like, can we just set something in place and then have it pay off the next like episode, please?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it didn't happen in any of them, so I was like,
do we get any kind of consistency?
Yes, it would have been really good. But yeah, as you were saying, Matt, like it definitely felt like no one was talking back and forth. Like, hey, this is where this is gonna go in the end. Okay, cool. How are we gonna get there? This is how we're gonna get there. That's all they needed, and it feels like none of that was ever talked about.
This is where I'll agree, sort of, with Kathleen Kennedy's comment, in that trilogies are not the future of Star Wars. Like, it's definitely going to be in this series. Like, I feel like now that there's such a fandom behind Star Wars, and now that we have the access to media in the way that we do these days via like all of these streaming apps, it literally
it's too instant. Like, do you guys remember like waiting in line for like a Star Wars movie and like having to like wait months? And now they're like, I mean, yeah, they are dropping. Like, sometimes they'll, not every time, but sometimes they'll drop episode by episode, week by week, like TV shows should. And I do like the fact that they're making TV series, which give us more content, and they allows them to spread out the plot over larger periods of times and go into further detail, and whereas they wouldn't be able to in a film, which is, I mean, it's obvious. But the idea that like the original concept behind Star Wars being a trilogy, and then the fact that the head of Star Wars is like, yeah, we're not gonna be doing that really anymore. It just kind of, I don't know if it, I don't know my emotions. I don't know if I should feel sad about it or if I should be
Palpatine's debut in Fortnite.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, well,
comments on our live stream.
It is true, but something to add off of what you're saying, Matt, is I love seeing Star Wars movies in the theater. I don't want that to stop because of sitting in a crowd and watching it with fans. That is one of the best experiences to me, because I remember sitting there when Force Awakens came out, and I remember, you know, like walking in on opening night and just kind of peeking in the theater, and as soon as the logo came on, like a long time ago in the Galaxy,
the cheers,
the entire theater roared. And that, like, I definitely got goosebumps and shed a tear. I was like, Star Wars is back.
Does that mean that you think that, like, because we live in such a post-COVID world where, like, the movie theaters just don't make money like they used to, and then you have a bunch of companies who are like, why would I put in all this effort in this money to do a movie in the theater when I would make less money than if I just made an entire series that would be completely praised and put it on Disney Plus?
Right. And
can you still have those kind of reactions in a bar with playing those episodes? Do you feel like you could still have that kind of connection, or does it have to be in a movie theater for you?
I think it has to be in a movie theater. I think if, like, you know,
big screen, big speakers.
I actually agree.
We're at the bar and you know what? Let's watch the newest episode of Kenobi. I think that would be interesting.
Why are we using bar as a reference?
Because I went to see like Game of Thrones episodes at a bar.
Oh yeah,
and these are like episodes where everyone like would be drinking around and we're all waiting for stuff, and we'd all be like freaking out on this giant screen that they had posted up. And I mean, like, that was still a full on kind of like movie theater experience for me,
right? Like, but I will say this, but that stuff doesn't happen a lot, right? I don't feel like, especially when it's something with like Disney related, because I feel like everything Disney related has to be like on the app and streaming on the app most of the time. And I feel like whenever I watch stuff like that, like I want to, let's say Book of Boba Fett is a great example. Whenever you see the speeders going by and you hear, like in the background, the Mandalorian theme playing, I so desperately wanted to like turn to the person next to me and be like, oh my God, did you hear that? Or like have that freak out moment.
And then they go,
I think that is something that is sort of something that you get in being able to watch this content in a public space with people. And the movie theater is definitely the best place to do that. And I'm not saying that, it can't happen.
I mean, if you're around the right audience,
And I just feel like,
I feel like it's harder, but it's still going to be
places
there.
to put it.
Is my main point. Is that it's going to be there. You just have to go and find it. And I feel like more and more time passes, you're going to find more and more places that are like, oh, we're playing the finale of this. We're playing the finale of that. Because the ultimate experience I've ever had in the movie theater where people are going nuts was Endgame.
Yes,
Endgame was
I agree.
the most insane one. And I don't think we'll ever have another Endgame for a very long time. And that's the one that people come out to the theaters for. I don't think Star Wars will have another one of those unless it's another insane hiatus, which probably will not happen, or the end of a trilogy. What you're going to find is that TV shows are going to be the ones where people actually go nuts for them. I could easily see a bar being like, hey, we're going to play the first episode of Kenobi tonight. You guys want to come around? We're all going to go ahead and watch it, and it'll be on a big screen, and people are like losing their minds and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's the kind of energy would be great.
Man. I think the bars I go to, I can barely hear the television, so we gotta coordinate.
Oh, these are like themed places where that's the whole point. It's like nerd culture kind of stuff. Yeah,
still kind of new here, so I got to figure that out.
And then back on Josh's point, what I was gonna say was that now that we're getting all these stream shows, as much as I do like the trilogies, as much as I do like the movies, the counterpoint of that is, and having instant access to content, Star Wars content that theoretically a lot of the times has more time for a storyboard to sit down, be created, written out, and have a plan, because I have all this time and all these episodes to utilize and find consistency and find a goal for the story's purpose, right? I do like that more than the movies. I like sitting down and having that those hours of content that I can just go back and rewatch whenever I want and still find all these new things inside these hours of content.
Here is the main thing that is what is saving Star Wars is we don't know what happens next in an episode. When this is a streaming service that they decided, hey, we're not going to do what Netflix does and you just binge all the series. They did it with Visions, that's fine, but this is Star Wars content that I get to hear whispered around. And that's what really keeps Star Wars going is when someone's like, hey, what do you think is going to happen? Oh, this character, and I think this is going to happen. And that's the kind of buzz that is around us nowadays that I think is really going to keep us going throughout all of Star Wars.
Someone walks into a room and they're like, no spoilers. I haven't seen the episode yet.
Exactly. That's the kind of thing.
Yeah, don't do that around Josh. He likes to spoil stuff for some reason. You gotta be kidding me right now.
Oh
man.
yeah, I see. I told Josh because there's a chance that we might be able to see the episodes before he.
I'm gonna ruin it for you so bad. I'm gonna.
But I told him I'm not gonna be you, and I'm not gonna do that. But
I got you, Josh. I'll tell you what's up.
You'll be at the panel and being like, hey, guess what had just happened in this episode? No, I'm just kidding. No, but
McGregor confirmed it in person, so yeah.
But if if there was a choice, though, if there was a choice, would you guys rather have just them doing TV shows, or would you rather
one of the
just
other?
Have them doing movies?
It's not hard
because for a while there, TV shows weren't a thing. They were not a thing.
TV shows. I feel like TV shows will be the new lifeblood of nowadays. I love movies to death, but if you can keep talking throughout the entire year about a TV show and go for months and months and always be speculating of what's going to happen next instead of one movie, we're going to wait a long time. I go see other movies. Oh, that was better than that movie that I thought, and blah, 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 blah. It keeps going. And then, oh yeah, it's a trailer for this movie that's coming out 2 years from the original. I feel like TV shows are going to keep Star Wars fresh for everyone and keep everyone really within in gaining traction for Star Wars. Because if you have a Star Wars movie every 2 years, it's okay, that's a trilogy. And I mean, I feel like the hype isn't nearly as there. That first episode, the hype was there. it was on a hiatus for so long to where it came back and everyone's like, wow, this is crazy. It's great that Star Wars is finally back. And I'm like, I love that theater experience. I just don't think that it's as good as the TV show experience.
And I will agree with you on this one, Josh. Here's the thing, like, just as far as like marketing wise, do you think that you could make time into your week, or at least most people, to go to a movie theater, buy food and drink, and then see this 2-3 hour movie?
Stubbs member,
or or would you rather flip on Disney Plus, pop on your series,
exactly,
and maybe 30 minutes, 48 minutes to an episode that comes out week per week?
Yep. And
which one do you find is easier?
Yeah, like, yes, that's I find watching from home is definitely going to be the easier option. And that's another funny thing, is that it's accessibility, because there's people that can't go to the movie theaters,
right?
And or they just, because we live in a COVID world, or just like movie theaters aren't for them. And I feel like this is another way to be like, you're still on the hype train like all of us. You can still be having those moments like all of us. You can still speculate like all of us, instead of just being like, all right, we had one movie, this is what we think, done. Let's speculate for what's going to happen next, I guess. Because these episodes are like 45 minutes long.
Oh,
you
yeah.
2 of those, that's already like a feature-length movie. Mm-hmm. But you get like 7 in a series.
Exactly. And it all has a consistent, coherent plot line.
Yeah.
Almost all the time, because, you have people that are sitting down that have to write out all of these episodes. Whether there's filler or not, still, like, that's still Star Wars content.
I know that we've been talking a lot about that, and I think that Disney, they've been like changing the way that they release film and stuff like that. And I think that in the coming years we're going to see sort of a hybrid of these two things come together. Whereas with a limited series or just a regular series, they will record the entire season all at one time and then they'll release it bit by bit. Whereas with a trilogy, they'll film one film and it will take 9 to 18 months, and then they'll release it, and then you have to wait another 2 years for the next film. Mm-hmm. But I think that what they're gonna maybe do here in the coming future is they will film for like a long time, like 12 to 3 years over a period of time, and then they'll release like a full-length movie. But instead of waiting 2 years, they'll release like one movie, and then like 9 months later, they'll release another movie that you could also just as easily stream on Disney Plus, because that's just easy money for them. But the fact that, like what Josh is saying, like the fact that they have to wait 2 years for the next step of the plot for us to continue the story, people lose interest. People determine what will be in the film, what won't be in the film, and then there's all of the stuff that happens behind the scenes where you hear a lot of rumors and stuff like that based off of like what actors are in it, which actors aren't. But I think that Disney is becoming they aren't already really good at navigating social media, and they're really good at not letting certain things leak, with exceptions. We've all seen little bits of leaks here and there out of Disney, but they're, for the most part, pretty minuscule things. And I think that Disney in the coming future, they're going to find a way to continue making films, continue making series, and then find a way to make them both better for each other. They'll take influences from film to make the plot better and lengthen out like the storyline for TV series. And they'll take the filming process that they use for making films and they'll apply it to, or that they use for making TV series, and they'll apply it to films. So I think that in the next like 5 years, like whenever this next trilogy comes out, I feel like we're not going to be waiting 2 years. We might be waiting maximum a year. Right. Because I remember when they did the Harry Potter series and they were releasing them, they filmed Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2 simultaneously, but they released them like almost exactly a year apart.
And they also did that for Lord of the Rings as well. Like
good example.
Yeah, for the original trilogy, they actually shot most of the stuff for Return of the King before they shot stuff for Fellowship of the Ring.
Do you think that we could get Star Wars creep by any chance, of like it just becomes the same thing over and over again? Because I mean, we have so much superhero creep right now, where like people like it's the same movie over and over again, like
with a different character.
Yeah, like you're just like I don't really care as much. Do you think you could get that with Star Wars?
So we actually already have, and that's actually something that we talked about in the last on our last episode, which was Force Awakens had a lot of elements of A New Hope, and because of number one, like the biggest one, of course, is the trench run. That was like a huge, like, oh hey, we did this in A New Hope. We just want to remind you that we did this in A New Hope. We're gonna put it in this movie, and then the other one, was kind of the plot where like, oh hey, there was a planet that was blown up. It happened in A New Hope.
Well, I think they blew up like how many planets, like 5 or 6.
there was also the older and wiser character, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But you know what? It was Han Solo in Force Awakens, and guess what? He died as well. And then so I know David quotes George Lucas a lot on this on this, but you know it's supposed to rhyme, and that's fine. But there's also this thing called copy and paste. And that's what they kind of did with the sequel.
How I got through high school.
And they also did that in The Last Jedi. Yes, it was different, but the final battle on Crate, where they had the AT-ATs and they had the speeders, that was a clear copy and paste. Not exactly, but very similar to what we saw in The Empire Strikes Back, and it wasn't an original idea. And
on
that
a white open plain.
Yeah. And it threw me off that we didn't get a second crazier battle station in Rise of Skywalker. It just ended up being a bunch of cruisers, and I was like, oh, okay, because like I was waiting for that.
I think that we will see less Star Wars creep, or I don't think we will see as much Star Wars creep as we have with the Marvel series, just because of the nature of Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
That are constantly challenging and trying to push the series forward. It can happen if we're not careful and the people that are producing these shows and series are not careful. Do I think that the people that are in charge right now are leaning towards that way or in that direction at all? No. I think the series is in pretty solid hands right now. And beyond that, I think the people who are rising to take over those positions eventually are always looking to push the boundaries of what Star Wars can be.
That's one of my favorite reasons that Taika is going to direct something in Star Wars, because I feel like that's such a big shakeup.
They're always doing something different, and that's why. And I know some of them weren't popular. That's why I praise Vision so much. Say what you will about the series, but it was all different, and they were all concepts that could work.
Right, and
every single one of those episodes could work.
I think everyone has an episode in that they actually liked.
Yeah.
Exactly. At least one episode in there. I don't know anyone who said I don't like any of these.
Mm-hmm. And if you didn't like any of them, then you cannot say at least that it wasn't a fascinating concept that you wouldn't at least be interested in seeing explored. Some of
those are probably like the original trilogy only Star Wars fans that would say that they don't like any of them. So like those are the ones that aren't susceptible to change. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, your opinion, while it is valid,
the 80s is dead.
Don't want to
get out of here.
But do you think that's just because of what they never gave that cut? They had such good stuff after the original trilogy in EU stuff that I feel like almost none of that was like could be criticized. Like I know a lot of it is like absolute cringe, like as in book wise, comic book wise, and video game wise. But I feel like they still have like their version of what comes next in Star Wars. So when that EU was closed off, and then they became like the prequels, it's the same thing that's happening now. Whereas like we had like prequel stuff that was canon, but it's not now after our new sequel trilogy and that kind of thing. So it's been interesting.
I don't know. I think at that point it's just a personal problem. Yeah. It's like, okay, you need to at some point accept that there's going to be Star Wars content that you don't like and you need to get over it. It is how it is. Disney is building this the way that they are building it for a specific reason because they want it to be well thought out stories. And as unfortunate as to say, a lot of us don't like the sequel trilogy. Mm-hmm. But it's there, and it's going to be there. And Disney's, I believe, I think prideful is a harsh word, but they do have, like, they are a multi-billion-dollar company, and they don't want to go back on what they put out there, right? So we know that they're too prideful to change it. They're not going to. So this is it. Like, this is just how things are. So what do? We accept what happened. We move forward and we make better Star Wars content. We learn from our mistakes. That's part of being human.
So here's a comment from Loud Lamp on Twitch saying, I generally hate that I have to wait a whole week for another episode, but it is also better because you can get like 9 hours of runtime on TV shows, while on the other hand, you can only get 2 hours with movies. I agree with that statement. That's the great thing about TV shows, is that you can get more time with the character. And that's why I'm glad that they're not doing Obi-Wan Kenobi as a movie and they're doing it with a show. Because as great as Solo was, you know, there really wasn't that much story to explore in that movie. Now in Kenobi, there was a lot to break down with that character. And I think if we had a movie, I think we would be rushed on that time. When with a TV show, we have a long period of time to fall in love with the character all over again. When you only have that 2 hour window of being like, oh, okay, you know, I wish I would have saw this and this, but they didn't add it because it was a time crunch. And that's the biggest thing with movies. And that's kind of going back to what we were talking about, where they will probably fall into doing more TV shows than movies. There was also a comment that was made about by Legendary Spectre saying about movies as season finales, which The Walking Dead is actually going to be doing something very similar to that. And I think that's a great idea. I think that would be able to draw more people into the theater of being like, okay, well, now if I want to see this, I have to go to.
But it's a series finale, not like
Por qué no los dos is my question. Release it as a movie on the platform, and also I don't know. I feel like there's a way to get the best. I feel like there's a way to get the best of both worlds. Like, offer it in theaters.
It's because it's just that it's a series finale. Like this, it's done. This is like where it's going to end. I completely agree with that. I don't know if I agree with it being just like a season finale, series finale. Like, this is the end of everything. Yes. Because it's such a big experience.
But if I go see a series finale and it's only like the length of a regular episode, is it really worth it?
So here's the other question.
As a movie, though, maybe you get, longer, like 2-3 hours.
Once we actually get to the part in the story that they're trying to tell with Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, the new Ahsoka series, and possibly like the new Rangers of Republic, if they actually work on that, of what all that's leading up to is this Avengers Endgame type event where they go and try and take back the planet Mandalore and then Thrawn as the main villain. Would you rather see that on screen, or would you rather see?
I would rather see that in the theaters.
Right,
in theaters for sure.
But that would be like a series finale,
live action Thrawn,
right?
Yeah.
Because I remember watching that of the big fight scene of Game of Thrones, which it was so anticipated, and I remember watching that on my TV.
You saw
and
that?
I know that was like a huge, like, controversial thing because people were like, "Oh my gosh, like the screen is so dark we couldn't see." Like,
I was like, I couldn't see it. What are you talking about?
Yeah. But I
even like Family Guy was like,
yeah. I think if they do something like that, especially with a big event like that, I think that needs to be on a movie screen, not a TV screen. And that will definitely bring more people to the theater. I think maybe having the option of like, oh, you can watch it on Disney Plus or you can go to the theater. I think if they did that, more people would, choose, well, yeah, I can watch it for free. But then there's definitely the more,
right. Well, here's the thing:
wealthier people that would be like, "Well, I'm going to go watch that on the screen."
Exactly. As much as I hate to say it, like you're cutting the profit from the theaters.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, the people who want to go and see it in theaters are going to go and see it in theaters, and the people who don't want to go pay to the theaters. Well, is it fair to make them wait for a season finale, a series finale, for it to go through the whole process of it screening in theaters? And then at that point, you have to worry about spoilers, whether they're going to get to them or not, and whether they're still going to be interested.
I was under the impression they would be doing that simultaneously, like
because I mean they already kind of do that
and in theaters.
Exactly, and I think that would be the best way to go about it.
They already kind of do that with some of the movies that they release now. Like they'll have like a movie that's in theaters for like 2 weeks and then it goes out on streaming services.
Yeah,
it's like you can make the decision for yourself on what you want to do.
Exactly, and I think that that's definitely a solid way to go about doing it. And I think that I would be into the idea of going, because I think most of us as hardcore fans would like definitely go and see in theaters and pay that money and show the support to the movie, as opposed to, maybe on principle you could watch it on Disney Plus for free. Like I would go and see it theaters and then come home and then rewatch it again on Disney Plus.
That same day or the next day.
Same day, next day.
Did they do like? I mean, I'm trying to find an example of when they've actually done that. Do you guys remember when they released Raya the Last Dragon?
Yeah,
like that. Yeah. I think they did release that in theaters first, and then I think they waited like a month before you were able to get it.
Well, they had that
premiere
Mulan as well. Live action.
Oh yeah, like weird one where
you had to pay for that even on Disney Plus. It was premiere access only for like a month or 2 months. Like they released it in theaters.
You had the decision to go.
Waited a month.
Yeah.
Pay for premiere access, and then if you waited another month, then you could see it free of charge.
Yeah, because of when they did that for Black Widow, that was the whole thing with Scarlett Johansson like suing Disney and Marvel because of her like profit from the movie was divided because it came out as the movie came out in the theaters. It was also happening at the same time as it was coming out on Disney Plus, and she made less money because of that.
It's like we should have waited. Did you release that? Yeah, we did. Okay.
I cannot stress this enough. For anyone who might be listening, we cannot let this fall into the pit of people having to pay for the season finale. It should be free on the streaming service and paid in the theaters. Free on the streaming service, paid in the theaters. You should not have to pay for a season finale. That is not what any of us are saying. But the option should be there.
Why? I mean, I get. Okay, can you read this comment out loud so I can respond?
I got you.
Wasn't a season finale?
Alienate.
Thank you. Anyone who hasn't watched the TV show.
I mean, why would you go see a season finale if you haven't seen the TV show?
Oh well, yeah. No, we're not saying like. I mean. Let's face it. Get like there would definitely be those people.
We've done it before where we've played like the series finale in the theater. Like we did that for Game of Thrones. Like you could go see it in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's worth it really anymore. Cause like, yeah, it's funny because Endgame was the series finale of a TV show, but it was movies. So I don't know if Star Wars can be the same. And I think its best option is to do the same thing, but stick to TV show format.
I will say my vote is for this. Do the series on the streaming service. I'll watch the series, do the last episode. Whether that be a season finale, series finale, whatever. We'll leave that up in the air. Do it as a movie. Like Make all the elements that have been building up from this series into a 2-3 hour feature length film.
Okay.
And stream it on the service for free and then put it in theaters. And then the hardcore fans will definitely go and see it in theaters and buy it out. And I'm sure there's definitely an argument to be made about whether it's worth the cost of putting it in theaters and whatnot. And overall, that's up to the executives.
Well, then we'll have just another Scarlett Johansson situation if they release it simultaneously like that.
Yeah. I think one show that is going to change the whole way that we look at TV shows and everything is going to be the new Rings of Power. And the reason why I say that is because if they built that show like they were filming a movie series, and then they just put it into like a show style setting. And I think when that show comes out, I think it's going to be very interesting to see. Fair statement.
That's a very fair statement.
I think that is definitely going to make at TV shows differently because Rings of Power, it hasn't even come out yet, but it has already broken the record of the most expensive TV show ever made.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy to think about because there's even movies that have never had that budget. I don't think even Star Wars had that budget. I think the movie closest to having that budget as a TV show is Avatar. That's crazy. So
Elon Musk should make movies.
He's too busy making rockets.
Be careful what you wish for. But yeah, no. I think there's a lot to look forward to. And something else as well is they also put a hold on Rian Johnson's trilogy. Kathleen Kennedy said that. And the main reason why is because of they are trying to focus. He is trying to focus on the stuff that he's doing with the Knives Out movies because the first one did so well, which I love the first Knives Out. So kudos to him. And this is something we talked about in the last episode, but I think that Rian Johnson doing his own trilogy where it doesn't have anything to do with main characters that we know, like Luke Skywalker, Han, like any of those characters at all. I think he will. I think he will make a great trilogy.
Do you think that kid with the broom and the Force will show up?
That was why I didn't like, the rest of the sequel stuff because we didn't get to see a story. There were a lot of elements from The Last Jedi that I liked. I thought it was very cool, but just the story aspect of it just didn't work for me, and it was because of they were dealing with characters that I don't think Rian Johnson knew. Like, how when we were kids and we would have action figures and then we would kind of make up our own stories of they would go do this and stuff. I always did that, but I never pictured it as this could be a thing. And that's how Rian Johnson kind of put it as, I'm going to put my own twist on it. I'm going to take away the
Rian Johnson's plot thoughts. Like that's how he comes up with his films.
Well, I am saying that he took the entire blueprint of what the sequel trilogy was supposed to be and then completely did his own thing. And then Colin Trevorrow got screwed over.
It's a real Colin thing to do.
And he never got to, do anything with his episode 9, which was Duel of Fates, which that actual script is online, and if you haven't read it, I highly suggest
definitely interesting
because it's very interesting. It was supposed to be very, very dark. Most of the movie was supposed to take place in Coruscant. General Hux actually, I remember reading the script and there's actual concept art. Hux is in this obsession of power, and then when the Resistance shows up with reinforcements and stuff in Coruscant, Hux is like, "Hey, we're gonna lose." He takes his own life with Mace Windu's lightsaber. It was wow, that is so dark. What the heck? This is crazy. And that whole movie was just supposed to be a very it was the complete opposite of what The Rise of Skywalker was.
I feel like that would have been a good natural way for this series to progress.
Yes.
Was to get darker and darker because that's sort of what the whole thing is about, right? Is the prequels, the original trilogy, and the prequels in the original trilogy are supposed to be about all of these dark, terrible things happening as the dark side of the Force takes over, with these little bits of hope and light sprinkled in to show that it's not always dark, right? Mm-hmm. And then the good guy wins. And then I feel like a great natural progression for the sequel trilogy would have been something along the lines of things are crazy now. Things are really bad. The dark side of the Force, super powerful. All these bad, terrible Rogue One-esque things are happening. The galaxy is falling apart. And now finally our saviors, Finn, Rey, and Poe are these little sprinkles of light that are finally coming to bring an end to all of this stuff.
I mean, I kind of agree with you because
incoherent mess.
The original trilogy, it's they start with the darkest of times and they build their way up to the lightest of times, and then the prequel, it's we're at the most peaceful the galaxy's ever been, and then it goes right into the darkness. and then it leads into the original trilogy, and then the sequel trilogy is we are in the pit of darkness, and then we are in the pit of lightness.
Well,
but like,
because here's the thing,
we never
right?
see pit of darkness. We're just like we're either coming out of it or going into it, but we're never in it. You know,
the resistance
in the periods of good.
First Order, I think, was the rebellion and the Empire, but their most fanatical traits. Like, take the resistance and then take the Empire, or take the rebellion and take the Empire, and then ramp them up by like tenfold. Right? The resistance is all about hope, all about light. We have to fix the galaxy, or this is it. Like, this is it. This is our final shot to fix things that are finally messed up. And the First Order, they're fanatics. Like, look at them. They are the remnants of the Empire that believe that they are doing God's work by purifying the entire galaxy, right? So for it to fall suddenly, this galaxy, into complete and utter turmoil and come to this huge, massive conclusion, I think would have made sense. For things to be, super crazy. Explore a bunch of really dark and super light concepts.
I don't know. Part of me like wishes that Duel of Fates actually kind of like went through just so we could, because like I remember like when we like I don't know if you guys have read like the books about the High Republic and stuff like that have come out recently, but they're like talking about like this period of peace and how I'm like, that sounds boring. A period of peace? That means nothing's happening. What's going on? And then the book starts with the ship coming out of hyperspace and everything is in turmoil. And I'm like,
the hyperspace disaster?
Yes. I'm like, oh my
falling
goodness,
apart.
this is not what I thought that this is going to be all.
It only gets worse, too, because like then you start having, like, not to go too much into spoilers, but like then you have
there's so much death. Then
you have this disaster that happens. Like, the Jedis are having premonition of all this darkness coming in the Force, and that's all I'm going to say about it. And it's like, oh my god,
effect.
What is going on?
Like, wait, our fragment did what? Oh my god, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, okay, that's I want to see that as a film or like a short series.
I think that could have been something really good for the sequel trilogy to have been.
It goes 0 to 100 real quick.
Because I like the idea of like the Jedi, the light side, like going into the pits of darkness and then bringing it out. They're always like, they do these terrible things, and I'm like, oh, can I see them, please? Show me a little bit of this darkness.
And of course, that like it is supposed to be a family film, but like obviously Rogue One has shown us that Disney can find a way to get around things by implying what happens.
I mean, yeah, like if
you ask Cassian Andor,
Hux, like we did terrible things,
murder himself on
the
screen.
good guys.
Like you could still see the cut of Hux looking off into the distance, and then the screen goes dark as the sound of a lightsaber blade ignites. Cut to the next.
And
scene.
then the version of Hux getting killed in The Rise of Skywalker, he still gets blasted across the bridge. So, like, I mean, like, yes, he dies, but not in like the darkest of ways. But like, still dark enough to like warrant like maybe shielding your children's eyes, depending on their age. So like they're like. They got so close to the line, and they're like, we're not going to cross it because then we have to like change it to a PG-13 / rated R. Yeah. I'm like, but rated R just makes for such a better film. I mean, Deadpool. I was kidding. But like I said,
I'll challenge you on that only to say that, like, it depends on the director and what you can actually get away with, because most of the movies that we see, it's just because of like swearing that it ends up being PG-13. Like that's the only reason. Because like the newest Doctor Strange, man,
oh my
god, that has a lot of stuff in it, bro.
I was gonna bring that up too.
This is some PG-13. It earned its PG-13 rating. Whereas I was like, I'd love to see this kind of stuff in Star Wars.
Here's a comment too. It's funny.
We're all on this. Here we go.
Y'all, I have not seen Doctor Strange. Don't spoil it for me.
You should not have said that with Josh right here. Now
I mean, it's done by Sam Raimi, and he's done Evil Dead, and I was like, I wonder how much of this element is actually going to come through in the film, and how much he can actually get away with Disney being ahead of it, and he still gets away with a lot.
Here's the thing: it doesn't need to be R-rated for it to be good. I will fight you on that, because look at Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I didn't say it had to be rated R.
Well, of course, right.
I just feel like we could add a lot more edge to Star Wars, and we could still keep it PG-13,
keep it
and it would still be good.
there's a barometer. This is PG-13. This is
it just needs to be done the right way.
This is rated R, and they stay in this side of PG-13. But there's all this over here that they could use. Like, what about all this part? It's still PG-13 if you keep it in here.
Definitely talked about this before. I would love to see adult Star Wars content. Just as a hardcore fan, like I'm not gonna lie about that. I would love to see adult Star Wars content.
Yeah, that would have been Star Wars 13 easily.
I'd love to see where that goes, and I think that they should stray away from it, because they've done series like Punisher for Marvel. So why haven't we gotten anything like that for Star Wars?
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking like
I know Star Wars is supposed to be quote unquote for kids, but I feel like we have a large enough fan base now that it's something that
if you know like the actual lore about Star Wars, it's pretty dark. Like the whole universe is basically out to get you in the darkest way.
Well, it is. It's a dark past future. Like that was the entire concept of it.
But they always
it's
talk about how dark it is.
You
want to see how dark it is. Come on.
That's the difference, is being able to see that in live action. I think would change a lot of things.
I think the first show that we will really see that would be very dark for Star Wars, more than Order 66 would probably be the Acolyte show. I think that one will definitely be dark. I think it will be more like about the Sith. But I think one show that I really, really hope that would, come to pass would be about Darth Plagueis, because the Darth Plagueis novel is one of the darkest things in Star Wars, and there's like a 10 to 15 minute page of how the Emperor slowly kills Darth Plagueis, and it's so detailed and it's so terrifying. And I was like, having those elements into shows or anything in Star Wars is what I think Star Wars needs more, because we get that the Emperor is terrifying. We get that he wants to rule the galaxy, but we don't know the real reasons why. They're never really explored. But in that novel, they talk about it a lot. And I highly recommend the book.
I don't know. I think that we will probably see some pretty dark elements of Star Wars in Andor.
I think we'll see it in Kenobi too. We definitely saw it in Jedi Fallen Order, which also is something else I want to talk about. Is yes, we are getting movies and TV shows, but we're in the universe of where the games are, and the games, comics, and novels are all connected. They're all canon in some way. Now, for theme park stuff, not all of it is canon, but some of it is. Like, for example, Galaxy's Edge, the Planet Batu is canon. The first time we ever heard it was in Solo, because of L3 talks about Black Spire Outpost. And then we find out Han and Chewie have been there and stuff like that. And then, Hondo's there, and Hondo is, in the Clone Wars and Rebels. And so it is definitely very cool that we have that for Star Wars fans, we get to experience things that are now canon, because there was a time of when Disney bought Lucasfilm, and it was like, okay, so this stuff is canon now and this stuff isn't. And that was a very, very rough time for Star Wars fans, because of when they did that. They were like, the Old Republic is no longer canon. Everyone flipped out and they were like, what? No.
A bad way to start.
No.
Yeah.
And
buy it and then delete it.
Right. So that was very interesting to see, because now if you compare some of the stuff they do for Marvel, that's more complicated, because of the TV shows and movies are only canon. Now, if you go to the games, none of those games are canon, like technically to the MCU, but now to the multiverse, because now the multiverse is a thing. But
yeah, now everything's technically canon.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. That's the weirdest loophole I've ever seen.
Right.
But it's also hard because other than the original comics and original storylines, Disney built the MCU from the ground up. They acquired Lucasfilm, and the baseline had already been set, and they had something to build off of. But they were like, okay, we're gonna use this content, but this content we don't know what to do with, so it just doesn't work anymore. So it's not canon. So they kind of just threw it out. Whereas I'm sure when Disney first bought Lucasfilm, I'm sure people were like, oh my God, we might see some Old Republic stuff. And they're like, you're never gonna see that from us. No. Instantly turned a lot of the people's eye away from Disney, like because they're like, oh, Disney's gonna ruin Star Wars, or they have already ruined Star Wars just by buying it and debunking half of the EU there. And I'm like, okay, it was a bad first move, and they've made up for it in some ways, but like I'm sure that there's some people out there that still to this day are like, I won't watch any Disney and Lucasfilm stuff because
I'm not gonna try and pretend to say that the EU wasn't an absolute mess in trying to figure out what was canon and what was not canon, or like what was actually happening in the EU coherently wasn't super difficult.
Right. And they were like, just get rid of it.
I do appreciate what Disney did by buying it, and now that I appreciate them trying to canonize a storyline that we sort of understand what's going on and can follow the pieces. Because, man, I remember being a kid and trying to look through the EU and just watching 1,000 articles pop up, all going in different directions about all these super hyper powerful characters, and like, okay, so who's stronger than them? And okay, now who's stronger than this guy?
Jar Jar Binks is always going to be on top.
What connection do they have to this? Like the EU, like, oh God, EU is such a spider web of information. And I'm glad that Disney has control of it and are doing things at least in a somewhat tasteful manner now, in a way that we can understand.
Yeah, Lucasfilm was just like content. I don't care if it's real or if it's not.
Established storyline and established way the universe is supposed to work, and it's not almost like Dragon Ball Z level of like, now this Sith is more powerful than this Sith because he has red lightning. He's got Ultra Instinct Force Lightning 9, which makes him more powerful than Plagueis. Because
Jesus, you're a nerd. This guy.
What did I say? Yeah.
What did I say?
But yeah, so
like we have clear lines of what is and what is not in Star Wars, and that I appreciate.
Yeah,
I do appreciate Disney for that. Yeah.
The future of Star Wars will definitely be interesting to see, and we are definitely going to find that out some about the future of Star Wars next week. Next week is Star Wars Celebration.
Let's go! Hopefully, there's no lottery system.
There is
there's something I want to talk to you really quick, Josh. Now that you've seen Multiverse of Madness, and I know that you've talked about it before, really quick before we want to, I don't know if we wrap things up, but Star Wars Multiverse. Now that Multiverse of Madness. And we have
none.
Marvel.
Don't
Can you remove Mason from this line?
Okay,
I just
Mason,
want to pose the
Mason,
question.
I'm gonna leave it like with
Your
this.
thoughts.
The only thing
Like
that
the
I am going to be okay with is Ahsoka using that time travel thing,
Yes.
the space in between, to see the beginning of the Jedi. I think that would be a very cool thing to watch. We get to see the history of the world between worlds, using the world between worlds to see the history
one world
up until now. So we get to see through her eyes the history of the Jedi. That's literally as much as I want to be able to be like, you can time travel as much as you like. This is the only way I'd like it.
Right,
Okay.
but that's
that
time
sense.
travel. That is not multiverse.
That's
No,
not,
and I
that's
would
not dimension travel.
But the thing is,
I wanted to pick everyone's brain on it. Not that I agree or disagree with anything.
Go to the Marvel
Ahsoka-
podcast.
But my point is, isn't Ahsoka being there and being pulled out? Isn't that mean that she's a part of like a different verse, right?
She was elsewhere. She was
That, or is it just described as the will of the Force?
That was also a different timeline. There's a difference between different timelines and different like of the multiverse
timelines. Yeah,
because of
multiverse is made up.
All right, no, I opened up a can of worms. That's very confusing.
Yes,
Never
the
mind.
Ahsoka series is going to take place before she's even gone to the world between worlds. So like,
no, it's not. No, it's not. No, that okay. All right, I am not diving into that.
If you go back.
In any case,
no.
So no, I
what if the entire Ahsoka series it starts off with her walking through one of those doors and then
I'm curious to see how far the world between worlds is going to be taken. I'm very curious to see how far
she's going to go back and kill Baby Thrawn.
I don't think it's going to open up a whole bunch of different timelines because, like we were just saying, like Disney's entire goal is to have one canon one canonical timeline of what Star Wars is and is not. And I feel like if we start opening it back up to extended universe, then that just puts us back in step one, right?
Back in time.
Yeah, no, no, but I think
good.
we're gonna learn a lot about the future of Star Wars next week because Star Celebration is next week. We are getting Obi-Wan Kenobi. We are gonna be dropping all of our info here very soon for our live stream stuff because every single night of Celebration we will be doing a live stream. And we will also be live streaming on
inside the convention center
on the show floor. Gosh, I can't talk today. It's fine.
Show
It's
floor.
whatever.
Woo!
And
Are you guys going to be doing a lottery system so that we can go and see us?
there is the lottery system.
You could, if you haven't already.
Yes, for Celebration goers, you have until May 22nd to sign up for the panels that you want to go to.
4 more days, guys.
There's also the lottery system to get into some of the Celebration store lines, I guess. Now there's a lot something very interesting is there's actually a lot of Max Rebo merch on the Celebration store this year, including something that Josh really wants me to get, and I'm going to do my best. Hopefully it's not sold out, but there's the Dexter Jester restaurant neon sign.
Oh yes,
yeah.
How much?
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
The price.
Nobody knows the prices.
You want a cup of Joe?
Wow.
What do you know?
I like to
Mason,
point out
you
that for any of our listeners or anyone watching live, that if you have been wanting to go to Star Wars Celebration and missed the opportunity to get a badge, this is a cool plug that if you are not following our Instagram, we have this super cool once of a lifetime giveaway that we are giving away 2 free 4-day passes that will be decided. I think we're going to decide on this Sunday, the 22nd.
Yep.
I think that is the day. So you have until the 22nd to enter into this once in a lifetime giveaway. He's just frozen.
Mason, you were doing so well until the very end of the pod.
Oh, and there it goes, Mason. But like I said, if you do not follow us on Instagram, please go look at us. We are doing a once-in-a-lifetime giveaway with 2 free 4-day passes to Star Wars Celebration 2022. And you could have a chance to not only witness this awesome experience in person, you will have a chance to meet yours truly along with the rest of the Star Wars Stuff podcast. Woohoo! Oh, he's in and he's out. And he's in and he's out. Just kidding. So
that's amazing.
If Colin, you want to run the whole social media thing, we got that cool bar.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah,
that's what that is.
Run the bar.
We've got Instagram.
We got Instagram.
Look at that. At Stuff Pod.
We got TikTok.
At Stuff Pod.
We got Facebook.
It's a pretty stuffed pod.
Yes.
It's
not only Facebook, our most important, we got our Patreon.
That is changing after Celebration. Very
we have lots of new cool updates, courtesy of your
content
your boy Josh
coming in that way. And then also we have our email. Please email us. We love hearing from you guys. We love your feedback.
Whether it's good or bad, please just go ahead and give it to us. We
love it.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Please stop tagging us on all the Max Rebo merch. We know it's there. We know it exists. We don't need to keep seeing it.
Can't wait to get an email flooring me for dogging on the EU.
Or not knowing who Kevin Feige was.
Not knowing who Kevin Feige was. We live and we learn, These are the mistakes we make on the Star Stuff podcast, not the Marvel Stuff podcast. Just want to put that out there, but,
our fellow brothers over the Marvel Stuff podcast. Yeah.
Yes. Please go and check them out. There's a lot of Marvel stuff happening, and if you love our podcast, then you'll definitely love theirs.
They're
it's
small,
our
growing
sister
podcast that we love it.
Yeah.
They're great.
Amazing things. And we also got our own website, stuffpodcast.network.com. We would not be doing this if it wasn't for you guys.
There's no dot between them.
We appreciate your feedback. We appreciate all of the love and heartwarming messages, and just you guys listening to us every week. We We are so grateful. We love you all. Stay tuned for this Sunday's podcast because it's the last podcast before Celebration. So we will kind of dive deep into what we think is going to happen and what we don't think is going to happen. But with that being said, from Josh, Mason, Matt, and I, the Force will be with you always.
I love you.
Always. Bye, guys.
Bye.